Start webinar, here we go. Good afternoon, I hope you are well. My name is Katie Cush. I am an Alumni Relations Officer at RISD. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, Launching Your Brand Online. Before I introduce today's presenter, I'd like to go over a few things. Today's webinar will run roughly about 2 hours, leaving us with time for Q&A at the end. If you do have a question during the webinar that you don't want to forget, you can feel free to post it in either the chat section or the Q&A, and we will address it again towards the end of the webinar. If you did not receive the PDF I sent you this morning, we will put a link in the chat box, or you can email me. You should have my email address. And let us know, if you can, in the chat box, what kind of business you're interested in launching for your own personal brand. A recording of this webinar will be posted on the Alumni website within the next 2 weeks. And I ask that if you please make sure that your microphone is muted. So it's my great pleasure to introduce you to today's presenter. Agnes Pierscieniak is a graduate of RISD. She graduated in '06 with her degree in graphic design. She's a creative director, multidisciplinary designer, and brand consultant. And she designs integrated brand stories, bright graphics, and bold environments. Agnes has over 10 years of experience in the hospitality, education, health and wellness, retail, and entertainment sectors. She's taught at Otis Extension, USC, and the Rhode Island School of Design, where she, like I said earlier, earned her MFA. Agnes has transitioned from years of corporate branding and identity work into launching her own brands, which include an online art shop, a handmade fashion textile label, and a creative workshop company. She's focused on these new endeavors and empowering others on how to launch their own visions. And with that, I'm so pleased to turn it over to Agnes.
Thank you so much, Katie. Yes, I'm happy to be here again. I know some of you might have come to our previous seminar, which was how to launch to build your brand. And now we're talking about how to launch your brand online. So as Katie said, this session is really meant to help you sort of, depending on whatever your background, whatever your experience is, if you want to launch, any kind of company, whether it's your own personal art website, whether you're launching a new type of product, this is the time, I think now, especially in 2020, to really get your website game as strong as it can be. So we'll be, during our session today, I'll be doing a short presentation, much shorter than last week, actually, and then we have a, printable PDF, which if you have not yet, downloaded from the link that was sent out, hopefully Katie will put it in the chat right now so that you could download it again. And this is, again, meant to be, I'm going to kind of go through it. You could print it out, fill it out as we're talking, and you could use it as a resource for after the seminar as well. So you have a takeaway to remember some of the key points in addition to what you hear and what the video will be. So yeah, there's the link. Thank you, Katie. And yeah, and Katie, thank you so much for having me here. I went to RISD to get my MFA. I graduated in 2006. My undergrad actually was in architecture from USC here, but being at RISD and kind of having that opportunity to be in this inspiring interdisciplinary, environment, really getting to know so many creatives from all around the world and from every, single field of potential, things you could do to be creative was, I think the top, moments, one of the top moments of my life. And so I think, I'm happy now that I can reconnect with this community virtually and hopefully connect with all of you who are around the United States or maybe even around the world. So yeah, let's, Katie, as we're talking, was going to be maybe sharing some of your websites, or if you don't have a website yet, just kind of what your business is. And again, if you want to tell us where you are as well, but just, I think, again, that community of knowing that there's so many different ways to be creative and have, and make a pretty good living at it as we, so I think the website is the first place to start that. So if you attended my other seminar, again, welcome again. I'm glad that you came back. And if you have not, I will be kind of going over a little bit about my background in the course of presenting some of these websites. And so I'm definitely like a show and tell type person. So I like to show case studies and show a little bit about, so I'm going to talk about like 4 or 5 different websites that I've created for myself or for others. And then I will then we're going to go into Squarespace live, meaning hopefully you two can, again, while we're in it, you could be on your computer and you could also be just interacting on the platform. So have your webinar open in one window and have your Squarespace in another. And I'll just kind of be going through the basics. And just so you know, it's a lot to cover in 2 hours. So we have time for questions. And if there's more questions, I'm always here as well. The best way to reach me is, again, maybe we'll put it in the chat in a second, but just hello@craveworkshops.com, or that's sort of my main website, or Agnes at me.com. But I'll send both of those links out. So if there's any questions, thank you, Katie. The Crave Workshops website is email is the best one. So anyway, so without further ado, I'm going to quickly talk about here. Let's see here, share screen. A couple of these key things as we are, again, thinking about what does it take to launch your brand online. I know that we talked last time about kind of what goes into a brand, the key elements, the kind of the brand vision of what you should be thinking about even before you get your Squarespace domain. And I'm actually going over Squarespace today. Just so you know, there are of course other platforms. I am not in any way tied to Squarespace. I've just been really using it since 2011. I built a blog on it, and I have found it to be the most user-friendly, but the most sophisticated design, kind of the melting of the two. So, you could pop on it and really do a lot without even just by poking around and playing with it. Or as you get better at it, there's a lot of features which are pretty amazing, which again, I'm going to go over today. So I am not I don't work for Squarespace. This is not, this is not a Squarespace pitch, although they do have actually free workshops as well on their website. But I have just really found this to be the best platform for myself and for, my clients if they want a web presence. So again, this class today, this webinar today, we're going to really talk about, again, not just how to make a website, but what is it that you want on this website, and what are all those things that you should prep ahead of time. So this is, it's a long road sometimes. Like the actual building of the website could be pretty short, but getting to where you have enough stuff and what you want to say and how you want to say it and why you want to say it are those key steps along that path that we are super essential and are the most important. So even before we get into the website, I actually attended another webinar, and I kind of want to talk about these 3 slides. This is from this company called Quill & Co. But again, this sort of takes everything we talked about last time and just boils it down into a succinct idea, which is the logo, the visuals, the identity are all the things that go on your website, or are the pieces that you share with the world, the external pieces of your brand. The things below this triangle, at the bottom of the triangle, the vision, the mission, the values, the audience, the positioning, the competitor analysis, your brand personality, your voice, the messaging, the goals of your website are all things that are that people don't necessarily see, but they do come through with how you show them. So the things at the bottom of the triangle, think of it kind of like an iceberg, right? Above the surface of the iceberg, you only see a little bit, but there's a lot more of that iceberg below. So this is the part, the bottom is really what will make you, if you have to get a good handle on this and really take the time to this, even though maybe it's less fun than something, like a fun logo or pattern. But if you don't really have this, your brand is not going to really have the legs to move forward as far as it could. And so again, with that in mind, the idea that the brand is really this intersection of, we have the brand of who, of who you say you are. We have the user who are going to be using whatever product or whatever thing that you're selling. And then of course we have the goals. And so it's this sweet intersection that all of these needs have to be met in this part. So, again, the user might also have different needs, you might have different needs, but really what is this intersection and this common ground that is really important that the website conveys. And then the most important thing, this is another really great slide, which again, these 3 kind of have, they're so clear and they're so simple. So that's kind of why I wanted to share them. But again, you always kind of think about the brand as the what and the how, but the why is at the core. And we talked about this last time as well. But again, just to kind of keep emphasizing this point, which if someone told me, again, using my example, I teach art workshops. Why do you teach art workshops? And, we went through this kind of series of questions last time as well, but really to kind of get that core of the why will help you build that website. And that's where we're going to start today when I talk about different types of websites. Is your goal just to showcase your work? Is your goal to sell your work? And then who are you selling your work to? But really it's like, why do you even have the work there in the first place? Who are you and why do you do what you do? So that is really, all these layers of this onion are essential, but sometimes people kind of forget this. And I myself, sometimes in that boat as well. Like I'll just make a portfolio site, but then I don't even really think about, well, why do I need another portfolio site? So I always kind of have to remind myself to think about what is the purpose now currently of what I'm doing, and why do people care? And so again, this is where, and a lot of times this is again a whole other webinar, or even a whole class could be kind of dedicated to the subject matter. But I guess the core of all of this is that people kind of see the what and the how easily, but this sometimes is fuzzy. And then if you look at, for example, I mean, we're not going to analyze other brands right now, but if there are brands that their why is not necessarily the part that you might see, but it does come across with how they're doing things. So for example, why, and I think I mentioned this example last week, but the brand company Outdoor Voices, their why was that they wanted leisure wear for everyday use, not for pro athletes, right? So that's a very different, the product is the same, athletic leisure wear, they're awesome pants and tops, but they're not, unlike Nike, they're not for performance sports. They're actually just for everyday people, wearing that to go on a walk around their neighborhood. So the way that they position themselves, the why is such a key, factor to making them a different brand. And then of course the product looks different, connects differently with the audience. And so that's sort of where that why, so the product is important, but the why helps navigate which way you even start. And sometimes the why might change, again, if you start seeing there's feedback about your brand or what you're doing, the why can sometimes shift, but the core of it should always kind of have, it's like that, I mean, it's the value, it's the kind of the thing that you're aiming for. If you're in a sea, you're trying to get to the port. So you have to kind of have that to get there. And so again, this quote by Simon really just sums that up. It's the fact that people don't really buy what you do, but why you do it. And a lot of research has been kind of done in the fact that brand loyalty, especially now, I mean, especially that people may have less money to spend, or there's a lot of competition for certain types of products. Why are customers loyal time and time again to certain brands is because they really believe in that why. And that why, again, doesn't necessarily have to be, yes, there's social impact messages. I mean, there's other ways of even building more loyalty and more trust. But I think people kind of start seeing brands as lifestyle choices that, again, they connect with and they want to purchase from, and they trust that company to buy more from them. Like, for example, Parachute Bedding, it's a high-end home goods company here in LA. And there's so many duvets in the marketplace, right? Like, why would you just focus on one? But they have built, a very strong brand presence in less than, I would say, 10 years, probably the last 5 years of just, really quality products, having a certain look and feel, kind of selling that lifestyle. And now whatever they release, like robes, people are still on board for that mission. Anyway, so with that, again, this is the questionnaire that we're going to start with, even before we get into a couple other slides. But this is something, and I want to kind of go over it, but if you want to start jotting down some ideas that come to you about your company, I'd love to hear what are those companies actually. So Katie, can you, yeah, actually, I'm going to go back to the full screen mode, but can you share what people are saying? I'd love to hear it.
So if anybody has joined us a little bit late, if you want to put in the chat section the type of business that you're looking to launch online, we would love to hear that. I can tell you that Melissa is looking to launch a jewelry company. And Stephanie, who is an ID major, she already works in the web. She's just here to get some other perspectives. So if anybody else wants to jump in the chat, we'll be able to read it out to Agnes.
Great, perfect. And if anybody wants to share their why as well, if you have any ideas, feel free to share that. So your what and the why, we'd love to hear. But I'll keep going, and then we'll stop at the end of these. I think there's like 5 slides, then we'll kind of reshare again.
Oh,
so
they're starting to come in. Here they come.
Okay, good. So yeah, so let's do it. Yeah, let's hear it.
So we have architecture. We have surface design business, a fine art gallery. We have hand-painted reclaimed barnwood signs. That sounds really cool. Another fine jewelry, an architecture and real estate tech company, an embroidery company. Let me see, architecture, portfolio, and design brand. Donna is launching a holistic counseling combined with expressive arts. Ivy is a home remodeling business, especially for out-of-state homeowners in the San Francisco Bay Area. Wow, we have an e-commerce subscription box business, fashion, graphics portfolio website. Oh, a skincare business. That sounds like fun. A publishing consultant, and it has a rudimentary publishing site, but they want to launch design products, hourglasses, next year.
Great. Wow. See the whole gamut of creativity. It's a whole spectrum of sizes and types of things and locations. So that's pretty amazing. Yeah, thank you for sharing, everyone. And so again, and I actually emphasized this last week as well. So if anybody also provides services, like you're a photographer and you could help people with anything, feel free to put that in the chat as well. Again, I really think, again, I'm not going to keep I mean, this is not the presentation for that, but the idea of collaboration has been such a strong key thing in my life, and collaboration with other RISD alumni really is. So again, whether it's through this presentation, whether it's through the new RISD alumni, our new network and our new website portal, post things on there and kind of, again, ask for help, because you can't really do it all alone. So again, maybe there's ways of sharing our skills and helping each other with our businesses. You're a photographer, you want to kind of practice on some products. Now's the chance to get some products. So anyway, so this is one way of doing it. There's of course multiple ways, but really think of this as RISD as, again, I have to say, it's been such a great, and I don't really use it as a network, like a traditional sense of just getting a job. It's just more like a group of people who really, we have a common language. We had a lot of common experiences. And I think that really kind of helped shape our perspective on the world. And so now whenever I meet a RISD alumni, whatever, if they graduated last year, whether they graduated 20, 30 years ago, that perspective, I would still say, is really, there's a lot of connection I feel with them. And every time, I'll talk about myself a little later, but I have a studio in an arts complex, and there's a couple of RISD alumni there. And literally every time I would be like, oh, okay, like he's a RISD alumni, like the way he's doing things is pretty different. So I loved kind of learning that about certain people, whether I first met them or down the line. So anyway, so back to the presentation here. So we have our launching a brand around, we have our what and a why. And again, this is the questionnaire that this is what we're really going to need to kind of move forward. So the who is it for, and what are you communicating, and what is this website going to be doing for your business? Again, every website now, and I would argue everybody, that if you have any kind of service, product, or you're just, even if you're a photographer that's not even a professional, but it's a good way of documenting your work online, and you never know where that is going to lead you. And again, I tell my family and friends, I actually built, my brother's website, again, on Squarespace more than 5 years ago, I would say, when it first kind of came out. And he was always kind of, and he's an engineer. He's like, I don't, but he was taking a lot of photographs going around the world. And I'm like, well, you never know. You should document this. And again, really have a place that if someone asks, what do you do? Or do you have it anywhere? You really should. And again, he actually missed a huge opportunity, selling his photos to Bing for murals, because they couldn't see what he could do. And so they hired somebody else. So I think you just never know when that moment arrives. So be ready. So here, going back here to launching, these questions. Again, this is something where I'm going to talk a little bit about these questions. We could, end on these questions as well if you have more questions about them. And I always say that this is sort of a framework that if it doesn't make sense to you, don't get hung, again, don't feel like it's okay. Like maybe that question is not for you. So it's not, you don't have to answer 100% of this to get started. It's more that, like, which of these are going to help you answer that what, how, and why. And there's different ways of kind of getting to those answers. So, but again, this is something you should jot down. And I myself, again, I have to write things down. Otherwise, if it's just in my head, it gets blurry. And if I just talk about it with my friends, it also gets blurry. And so I have now really started to, whatever ideas I'm thinking about doing, I just quickly take 20, 30 minutes and I do fill this out, and just even have documentation during a certain time and place that this is, if I'm doing Crave Workshops in 2020, how is that different than Crave Workshops in 2017? And yes, like I have pivoted slightly, I am shifting, I am much more direct of what I want and who I want to reach. And I have started really reaching those people where before it was kind of more fuzzy. And I was like, I was doing art workshops, but it wasn't clear. And so I wasn't really hitting, the kind of clients that, again, would actually hire me for big projects. So coming back to this, again, who will be using the site? What's your primary goal for the site? And again, what is, just think about the one thing that you want to do. If you say, I want to sell my work, great. But again, to who? Do you want partnerships with interior designers to use your work in their home staging? Do you want to sell it to galleries? I mean, I'm not an expert in selling art to galleries, so I don't know about that world. But again, maybe then you have to kind of reach out to people who are experts and really kind of ask, what are they looking for? And there's, there are webinars out there that really just focus on that topic. So again, get to this level of, just so you even know what you're looking for, then it'll help you find who can help you get there. And then again, the content priority, if you want to say portfolio, really then think clearly about what is it that you want to show. Maybe start jotting down your projects, the type of, if you're an artist and you've been practicing art for many years, don't get overwhelmed that you have to show everything at once. And again, I'm going to talk about that when we get into the website portion, but I built different collections for different pieces I've done, and I'm only showing work maybe I've done the last year or two. I obviously have work from 10 years ago, but I'm just focusing on what I'm excited about and what I think will, maybe sell better now. And so again, that's sort of where you have to be a curator of your own work. And if that's hard to do, because that's hard to do personally, I would say, then ask your friends, even ask your family, like, what do you think about these pieces? Is anything less strong? If you're a graphic designer, if you're an architect and you want to show your, projects you've built, really there's better ones probably, and there's probably ones that are a little bit less successful, but you may be a hard judge. I mean, it may be hard for you to judge that. So get outside opinion of, a couple of people, and just get their feedback. And people will probably have different feedback, but at least then you'll understand, like, oh, well, people are confused here. How can I change that? So again, this is really important, is like, get down to the details of what's going on there. And then if you already have a website, or if you already have any kind of, brochure or anything that you're actually sending out, again, write down what you think is working well, and what did you do before that you like and you want to keep. Because again, I keep, as a graphic designer, I redo my portfolio every couple of years. And so I just relaunched my whole portfolio website a couple of months ago, and I kept a lot of the projects, but I just reformatted how they're shown. So things like that are, important. Don't throw everything away just because you're starting fresh, but then sometimes it's okay to cut some that you think are no longer serving you. And again, that feedback loop is really important. And like I said, one thing about feedback is, like, I've learned that, if there's 10 different people in the room, there's gonna be probably 10 different opinions. So, and I kind of gauge my own reaction based on, if someone says something and I'm like, oh no, they're totally wrong, and then somebody else says something again, and they're all saying the same thing, then maybe it's time for me to reevaluate how I'm thinking about it. But if people are saying different things, that makes me maybe sometimes stronger in my own opinion. No, this is actually what I really want to do, because people will try to tell you, people always like to share their ideas, and again, they're always trying to be helpful, but maybe their ideas are not what you want to do. So that's where, again, you have to kind of listen, take it in, think about it, and then see really what is it that they're saying that can help you, or what is it they're saying that maybe is more about their interests and not yours. So those two things, I think, are important to distinguish. Again, and then things you want to change. So then here, inspiration and content. This is important as well. I would say I always start looking at other websites, and especially other websites of, whether it's competitors locally, or whether it's just competitors, or not competitors, just people doing the same thing you want to be doing. And nothing, I feel like very few things in life are 100% unique. I think a lot of people have similar ideas, and that's okay, because the world is huge. There's a lot of customers and there's a lot of opportunity. So I never take it as like that there's a finite amount of sources and that I'm competing with somebody. I'm always just trying to learn, how are they approaching this problem? For example, like I have, again, my art workshops, and I looked at who else is teaching art workshops. How are they now teaching art workshops during coronavirus? Are they doing virtual? How are they selling it? And so I just started really through Instagram. Actually, Instagram helps sort of find the websites, I would say, because if you start kind of, or people who follow you on Instagram, again. So I have found, I have people from Australia teaching art workshops to, here locally in LA, and it's an amazing and we follow each other, we like each other's work. And I don't think of it, again, as a competition. I just think it's actually a way of learning. And I have now seen how different, like, people have taken it down different paths, especially now, because some people's businesses who I thought were doing so well and had amazing brick and mortar stores, and I was a little envious that their stores were so beautiful. And I have a studio, but it's just not in a huge, popular location. Unfortunately, they had to close down. So again, I always think it's like, wow, all the people who I was so enamored by didn't change their business to be virtual. Again, maybe they couldn't, maybe they didn't want to. I mean, again, that's their choice, but it actually has made me realize that time changes everything, especially, current time. So it's great if you know your competitors, but also learn from what they're doing. And maybe then could offer something else that they're not doing, and that will maybe help save your business. It has really been the case for me. Again, I really am very grateful for a lot of opportunities that have come up. Surprisingly, this year has been the biggest year of growth for my art workshops. And it's just because I really pivoted to virtual, which I never did before, but try something new and then sell what you're doing and just clearly, we're talking about SEO and things like that, and people will find you. So that's really important. And the final thing here, again, your goals. So this part I would do at the end. You probably, you want to kind of start writing down the details of what you want on your site. But this customer journey, I would say, comes definitely after you kind of start playing with your content and seeing your content. So just so you know, these two last pages, you'll probably do, this is sort of the end of, I'm ready to get on Squarespace. I start writing down how I want to organize my website. So after you kind of get all the other information and really kind of start, there's like, we start gathering by saying your ideal gathering, like what you want to know, what you want to put on your website. And then there's like the realistic of, okay, I have these photos of my art pieces. I have to get more photos of my art pieces, or I need to, so you need to kind of organize what you have, organize what you want, and then organize how you're going to present it to people, and then the sequence and the order. So this is, again, at the very end of that process. So yeah, so that's sort of the PDF, and we're gonna, again, you could fill it out. We'll talk about it at the very end as well, but you kind of have a framework of where this is going. So let's actually stop right now before I get to the next final slides. Any questions or anything anybody wants to add? Katie, I'll let you manage the questions.
We don't have any questions right now. We did have somebody ask for the link, which I did put in the chat. But if you have any questions, you feel free to use the chat section or the Q&A box. But no, nothing right now, Agnes.
Okay, good. No news is good news, I always say, which has maybe sometimes.
I would agree.
I don't know, but I don't know. Okay, so process. So again, I divided this presentation into phases. And what's kind of interesting about this presentation, I did give it once already to Otis. I teach at Otis College of Art, and I've kind of reformatted it a little bit since then. But I actually attended a Squarespace. They host free webinars for an hour, and the way they do it is actually they do a little bit of big picture, but then they really make each webinar very focused on one particular skill. So how to do marketing emails, so they really dedicate like an hour just to that, which again, I'm more of a big picture to have you guys to even understand what are the tools that you can have. And then you could always figure out, how to do the details of how to actually do that tool. But if you don't even know it exists, then so I think it's always important to know the big picture and then get help for the questions along the way. But anyway, when I attended two of their seminars, they also divided things into phases, which were very close to this. So it was actually nice to see that this is how they're presenting it as well. But yeah, the big picture, again, your why, and then your domain name. And a lot of questions do come up about domain names. I would say domain names are really tricky at this point to navigate because so many are taken. And my only advice is always to, have it be your brand name, or, whether it's your personal name and another word, or whether, you could add words like portfolio or showcase or whatever. To kind of to be able to use your own name if it's a good name. If it's your business name, try to get that. And if, again, that's not available, then at least try to get that .com. I know there's a lot of other endings like .co and .whatever org, but that gets really confusing. So I always try to get the .com and just kind of make it work by adding another word or, kind of being creative in how I approach it. And then also having your Instagram be similar name, if not the same one, is really, really important. So I would just say those are the two things, like, craveworkshops.com, I got at a time. Then sadly, craveretreats.com got taken by somebody, which was a bummer. So I had to do the org, and it just always was confusing for people. So whatever you're doing, just really try to get that. Don't be hungry and buy all these URLs, but just kind of have that be a really important part of your beginning process. And then pick a template. So again, we're going to talk about Squarespace and picking templates together, but that's like the first step in Squarespace. Then again, your content. This is something where organizing your content, depending on how you are, as how you organize things in life, you could either be pretty organized or you could be all over the place. But for website building, really important to have like a folder that's dedicated to whatever photos you want to put in that Squarespace site, and subfolders if you want to, again, have like project by projects, and then have subfolders and have all those photos be sized. Again, I would say there's guidelines on Squarespace how to do that, but I would say, 2000 pixels, so about 2 megabytes 3 megabytes is a good size, that they could still be large images, but that they're not, so don't make them all small. Like have, images that can be large, especially now with large monitors. You kind of actually want large images, but you don't need 20 megabyte images, and their limit is actually 20 megabytes. But just know that everything should actually be kind of sized in high quality JPEG, that it looks good, but it's not, you're not going to be uploading 20 megabyte files, which take forever, and you don't need. So there's a sweet spot in the middle, 2 to 10, I would say is probably the average, but again, 2000 pixels wide is like a good average to go for. Don't compress too much, but then yeah, just make everything similar and organized and ready to go. Again, we talked about last week, which we're not going to talk about this time, is the custom content and the lifestyle images. So that's also really important to have. And if you start looking at websites, again, depending on what you want to do, if you want to do a product, like somebody had doing a beauty product, not all your photos will be of your beauty product. You probably want to have some lifestyle photos in there. So we talked about, kind of ways of getting those photos, but be creative. Not everything has to be, everything has to be a photo that you own. Don't take photos of the internet and just put them on your website, but there's inexpensive ways of purchasing photos or getting free photos from artists sharing their photos. If you credit, like through websites like Unsplash Images has free photos that can be used for your business as long as you give credit. So there's other ways of doing that, but just you have to kind of think about it. So for example, one resource here, which again we talked about last week, is Creative Market. There's so many different things in this platform. There's fonts, there's textures, there's patterns. There's also really nice photography for very inexpensive prices. It used to be that if you wanted to buy a photo like through Getty Images or Corbis, a photo would probably be $200, if not more. It could be 200 to 500 even. And again, that was ridiculous, and no one's going to want to pay that for their own website. If you're a company, yes, but if you're a personal brand, that's just not achievable, and there's a real, I don't think they were, that they were specific and they were for certain uses, but again, for a website for yourself, you probably didn't need it. So what's great about now is so many people and so many photographers have realized that it's better to sell, make money by selling their photos for less expensive prices, but to sell it to a lot more people. And again, if you're a photographer as well, you could think about this as a revenue stream. You could actually, upload art and different things to Creative Market and set up a shop. And, again, I don't know that I haven't done it myself, but you could definitely, make a profit that way. But anyway, so this was, for example, the studio, which also sells templates, and they're actually the ones that sold, for example, this is like a Photoshop template that I use just for the presentation. But so they also sell photographs. And again, if you start looking at what, if I was doing a spa care line, like maybe these photos work. So you kind of have to always navigate what is your, and even if you're doing like an architecture company, a real estate company, maybe there's photos of like interior photos that are like more close-ups of home or whatever. So you could still, don't feel like everything has to be 100% your own work, because really it becomes a mixture of your own personal content with maybe some photos that are kind of, again, help fill those background spots and set the mood. So then phase 3 is design. Again, this is where, and we're going to talk about this today. We're going to talk about all the different ways that Squarespace allows you to customize your design. So, and one thing also important about design is for mobile and computer. Like depending on, most people actually now are looking at websites on mobile, which I would say is a bummer, just because I like the larger experience and larger photos. But what's great about Squarespace, again, is they have really refined all of their new templates, actually all their templates in general. They show you what it's going to look like on mobile and on web at the same time when you're picking the template. And they do look different, but it's important to kind of, again, look at both and see how they look. Because I before this was not the case. I would build a whole website on mobile, on my desktop, and then be like, oh, the mobile looks pretty different. So just always pay attention. Again, what's really great is that you have a variety of image galleries, there's colors, fonts. And again, this is something new, I would say, to Squarespace and to the newer, like Wix and other websites also do it, which was not the case before. So I used to actually build websites, with HTML. This was like back in the 1997, HTML and Flash, my first website, I did hand coded from scratch. And really, when you wanted to use fonts, you had to stick with the fonts that were already on people's computers, or typefaces. and or if, there's other ways of doing it at that time. But now everything is actually, the way it works is that you pick your font through Squarespace. So you don't even have to own the font on your computer. They own the fonts and the rights to them. And then they work with, when people open up your website, the fonts get transferred through that process. I mean, I don't know exactly the engineering behind it, but what I do know is that you can now use so many different fonts that are live, that work on your computer, and anybody viewing your website will also view those fonts, which is huge. And this is, I think, what really, when they started offering this feature with Squarespace 5, this is what really set Squarespace apart and made them to be the giant they are now, is that they allowed designers to use beautiful fonts that were live, they're not flattened, that they're still, editable type that, people could cut and paste from or could see. So they're not images, they're act like fonts, but they are embedded and transferred to the viewer. So that magic, I think, is really, again, makes your website look really good, and makes it really set apart. So you don't have to stick with like Times New Roman or Arial, which look terrible. So anyways, that's huge. And then also, again, they also have integration with videos and Vimeo. Again, they do YouTube or Vimeo, and my experience has been, I actually, Vimeo works better. It's better. It doesn't look as compressed. So again, if you want any video features, I'll talk about that, but just know that it works better. In my experience with Vimeo, YouTube has been kind of problematic with their integration. Maybe it's changed now, but at some point I had all my videos on YouTube and they all disappeared. And so I didn't, and then they're like, oh yeah, we're having a problem with YouTube. I'm like, well, that doesn't work. So I just re-upload everything to Vimeo, and now it works. Also, this is huge. And this is why I love Squarespace. And every time I'm going to show 4 or 5 different websites quickly, but they all, I don't need all these features on everything on all my websites, but if you have one website and you're just doing it, I would definitely make sure that these features are in your business plan. And we'll talk about that. But this is something that you're really going to use for any kind of business you're doing. And what's great about it, again, that it's all here through this interface. So all your social accounts are connected, and they actually show, they pull from Instagram, so you could show your latest Instagram photos. You have an announcement bar, which again, you could change to kind of, show promos on it. You have your pop-up, which is designed as well. And then there's what is really great about these is you could do newsletter signups and also email campaigns. So all of this means that you could then connect with your audience easily. So whatever audience, is here on Squarespace looking at you, you can, get that feedback loop going and really connect with them. So you don't have to use other, third party like MailChimp and other ways of doing newsletters. All of it is here through Squarespace. And then, this question I think might have come up last time, but the e-commerce integration. So what I really like about it is that, if you have a PayPal, it actually works with PayPal, but also with Stripe. So Stripe is like it's sort of like, it's a way that, people could process their credit cards on your website, but that it's secure. And, so people are not giving you their credit card information. Their credit card information goes through Stripe. So you don't see it, you don't own it. It's, it's safe, it's secure, but that they could pay with a credit card. Because, so you could do both on Squarespace. People can either pay with PayPal, which some people like, because then to them it's 100% safe. Meaning that they don't even have to put the credit card in. But some people, are okay with putting their credit cards for your orders. But again, you don't have to, this is the best way that you don't have to deal with any of that. This is just integrated. So there's a part of your, in your user settings where you have to link, you have to create a Stripe account, and you have to kind of create how you want to take their money, to what bank account you want to, send it to. But other than that, it just easily gets streamed into your bank accounts, which I love. And also you get notifications. So again, that's something where, for example, I was doing workshops and I was, I kind of skip over that one, but I was doing workshops and I had people buy their workshops directly through my website. They do take 3% cut, but that's pretty standard. And then that way I could kind of keep track of all the inventory for all my goods as well. It keeps track of inventory. And so you can easily then email invoices and things like that. So again, so that's the big parts about the marketing and kind of the bigger picture. But then we get into, I guess, the last phase, which I've typically always skipped. I thought it was not important. And I was like, oh, who cares? Like, people will find me, or, again, I didn't really put a priority on this. And then when COVID hit, and I attended a couple of webinars, I realized what a huge opportunity I'm missing, that again, people kind of find me word of mouth when they, try to find art workshops, for example, but they don't necessarily, right? Like I'm missing so many other people. So quickly, what's great about Squarespace, again, this has really improved, is their SEO feature, is it's, again, I'll show where it is, but really take advantage of this, because even putting a sentence or two about, right, art workshop, I put virtual art workshops for corporate events, like that's it. I mean, I wrote very simple, simple, straightforward sentence, and I put some tags in there, and now I have at least 2 or 3 inquiries a day from people all around the world, and so I'm sure if I did more, maybe I'd have more inquiries, but I mean, 2 or 3 a day is still plenty to keep me pretty busy. But yeah, like it shocks me that they're finding me from everywhere, from Australia to England to, I mean, everywhere. And it's fascinating. And it's really because I guess the SEO, and it's actually pretty optimized, and it's really showing up in Google searches. So every time somebody contacts me, I ask them, how do they find me? And they always say it's through the website. I mean, some are Instagram, but for the most part, it's the website. So, this feature and this works so well that I have never really, I've now realized how important it is. So, and what's kind of great about also the tools that Squarespace gives you, and this is, an old screenshot, but is that you can actually analyze how many visits you have. And again, depending on your business, right? I always say yes, we all want to have like 100,000 followers, or, 1 million followers, or whatever, things like that. But really, whatever you're selling, having a key group, an audience that cares, that visits your site again, that actually makes purchases, and buys what you're selling, is way more important than just visitors who are like looking around. And it takes time to build that relationship. And so again, I myself have kind of had patience, for example, for my art workshop, for my art products, people look at my website, they don't necessarily buy off the website, but they look at everything, and then they contact me for larger commissions or for personal commissions. So sometimes the looking translates into a sale off the website. But again, what's great about Squarespace is that it can kind of tell you, and I don't look at this enough. Again, I sometimes glance at it once a week or once every 2 weeks, but it does tell you how they're finding you, and and what they're looking. And then the other tool that I want to kind of add here, which I just started using very recently, is PLANOLY. So PLANOLY is a separate product. It's not affiliated with Squarespace. But what I like about it is that it really gets you. This is for Instagram specifically, not through a web, but and it's probably about, I don't know, $10 to $12 a month. But I really have found that it's been helpful just to even see the engagement, but also just to see, again, we talk about who's my target audience, and where are they? And I can take guesses on this all day long, but this actually gives you that info. And again, the larger your core, I mean, the more people that you're looking at, right? The more people visit, I would say then it's going to be, the numbers are going to be even maybe more helpful. But in my case, even smaller numbers here, I can at least see, okay, it's women. It's you can kind of see the numbers. It's women, it's mostly in Los Angeles. It's this age range, right? So those are the things I always thought, I assumed. But again, in analytics, you don't want to be assuming things. You actually want to get the information right. And so when I was an art director at Evite, we had a guy who was his full-time job every day, was just looking at this kind of data and then telling us what we should design based on this data. And I always think that data is important. It's not something you should, always be a slave to, but it does help guide that ship. And sometimes there's surprises in the data, and also the data could be skewed. Like, for example, maybe my target audience, I mean, this is my target audience, but maybe there's customers who are 65 and over, but maybe they just don't use Instagram, right? So it is a perspective of the information that, there's other information that also you have to take into account. But again, this I would say is pretty accurate to what I always thought. And again, I'd be curious how that has changed now with my virtual workshops. I haven't really paid attention, but I probably should. So that's it. And then the other thing about PLANOLY, again, they have a stories edit, which helps. So all of these are just tools that help you get that brand online, get it consistent, look at all the information, and make sure look at this once a month even. I mean, once a week is probably better. And just kind of, again, see who's coming and what they're doing there. And then you could also even see how long they're spending on each page, average, and also which pages are more popular. So you could kind of follow along where they're going through the Squarespace analytics. And it really is very helpful just to again, not assume everything, but to actually have like information. So yeah, so with that in mind, any questions so far? I
Yes,
know
we
I speak
do.
fast.
You
Okay.
know, no, that's fine. So Ruth Ann is wondering, how do you structure that ideal client going through your site, and how do you figure that out?
Okay, that's a good question. So I would say, I'll talk about that when we get into the actual website designs, but I would say really think about how you want to present information. So for example, if it's a portfolio site, I maybe want all my work up at the same time, which again, I'm going to show my agnesp.com website. So all the projects are live and that customer journey is, it's not specified. It's like people could pick and choose where they want to go, which is for a portfolio site I found is actually better because people don't know where they want to go. They just want to see pretty pictures, click, and then get somewhere, right? So that's a different type of user experience. But if I want them to go, for example, for virtual workshops, what's in the navigation bar should be really clear. And so that's sort of how you structure where they go and how they go there is, that's the logistics of how to do it. And you kind of think about like, what's the information you want to share and how quickly do I want people to get there? So again, if it's the top navigation bar, if I have, virtual workshops at the top, they're going to see that, they're going to click that. If it's hidden somewhere, that's probably not good because they might get confused and never find it. So I would say, if you try to structure where they want, think about what you want to show and get them there as quickly as possible so they're not confused, so they don't miss it. For example, like one example from my experience was I had a portal, I had, craveworkshops.com, and I had a navigation bar that said workshops. And I had all my old workshops on there, kind of like a portfolio. And everyone got confused. They're like, well, I just want to buy a new workshop. Why are all these old, events already happened there? And it made me kind of realize, oh, that's how they're viewing it. They're viewing it as like buy now, not like, oh, see what Agnes has done. So I totally changed that around. And I even put the word like, whatever, recent workshops or whatever, just to clarify it. And I keep having those buttons like, buy now or click here. And again, I never did this before. I always was much more indirect about it. But I found that now people really just want to be able to figure it out easily with like one glance, like where to go and what they want to get. I don't know if that answers the question, but and then how to figure out what that is you have to figure out what you're trying to sell, right? If I have artwork, like which collections do I want to sell, and do I show all on the homepage, or do I want to kind of, maybe the process is less important because then that's secondary. But showing your artwork front and center is, I would say, the most important if you're trying to sell artwork. So yeah, front and center, what's the thing that you want people to take away if they leave your site after only looking at the homepage? So
Great, thank
and
you.
there's other things here in the chat that might be helpful too. People wrote other things. Yeah.
I actually just want to call everybody's attention to the chat. If you want to be able to chat with your fellow participants, just make sure that you're sending it to all panelists and attendees, because I do believe that sometimes the message is only coming to me and to Agnes. So if you want others to be able to comment on what you wrote, feel free to make sure that all the attendees are also clicked. We do have a question from Laura about photography, who's given up a little bit because everything that she learned in the late 90s and even self-taught in the early 2000s are obsolete. And she's wondering if there's any suggestions on how others have gotten over it. And I believe when in your last presentation 2 weeks ago, you talked about how important it was to collaborate with photographers to help build your websites. I didn't know if you want to touch upon that.
So just to kind of have how to get reinvigorated with it. Sorry. Okay.
I believe so. Yes, Laura. If
Okay.
if I'm misquoting you, Laura, feel free to send me a message in the chat.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, and I think again. I mean, I think collaboration with others and kind of rethinking. And I think yeah, for me, it's been I could do a lot of things, but I can't do everything at once. And so how can I again think about what is my goal? If I want to make money, if I want to sell something, then what are people looking for? And again, I feel like I honestly, coming from a RISD background, I kind of would just make art and not really care if it sells because I was making my money doing graphic design. So that was a different goal. But now that I really want to sell my artwork and sell my art workshops, I have now started really turning it around and not being like, what do I just want to make for fun? But what is it that people are buying, and kind of how can I position my skills to get there? And so if you want to get re-inspired, maybe think about first of all, what excites you. And photography has so many different avenues, right? So, I mean, you could do, again, and I think always whatever you're selling and whatever your product you're giving should be really tied to who you are. Like you can't fake, right? If I don't want to teach child art workshops, which I don't, I'm not going to pretend I want to. And like, I'm not going to, take that type of audience, because I have tried once and like, it just wasn't my personality. Like I prefer teaching adults. Like I just prefer different types of workshops, right? So you have to kind of be authentic to what you like, what you're good at, and then who will care and who will buy from you. And so within that realm though, you should be creative about, what kind of photography, are you missing some things you haven't thought about? For example, helping other creatives sell their artwork by helping them with their photographs, so there's, again, depending on your personality, you could really take the photograph and go many, many different directions. Or, like, and I'll show Utkan's work in a second, but he's he does natural, beautiful photography. I mean, he loves landscaping. He loves landscape and hiking and outdoors. And most of his photos are of the great outdoors, and he's trying to get it to like National Geographic, but that's really hard. But in the meantime, he has actually started photographing all of my workshops and gotten some work for drone work and other things for schools, and made money. And then he actually liked it because he likes dealing with people and he likes exploring new places. So I would just say, think about what that sweet spot is of like what you're good at, what you like to do, and then be creative on who might need those services, and then just start putting yourself out there and ask, right? Like pitch people, like, oh, hey, can I do this for you? Or can we collaborate? And I would say a lot of times I've gotten a lot of opportunities. Again, I never think I'm successful. I just think I'm just getting one opportunity at a time. And I'm just trying and I'm having fun with new people. So, but don't be afraid of reaching out to where you want to go and then asking people if they are looking for something like that. Yeah.
Thank you. Megan has a question. It's actually a two-part question. Is there a
Okay.
good source on more information on how to reach your audience and engage and market your site, particularly for a high-end market? And then her second part is she's trying to figure out how to incorporate very selective advertisements, but it doesn't look like Squarespace supports that. Any ideas where to look for how to do this?
Advertisements. I'm not sure about I'm not sure about the advertisements. I mean, Squarespace does not do like Facebook ads or Instagram ads. Those are out of Squarespace. And I'm definitely not an expert on ads. I would just say, but the first part of the question I would say is, high-end brands work with other high-end brands, and having a portfolio. And so, right, getting your foot in the door, but also just, again, being really clear about, I would say, starting small and then starting to collaborate with brands that you think, right, are the kind of brands you want to work with. Like if I want to do hospitality work, really important to get something in hospitality in my portfolio that shows people that I have worked with a brand like that. And so sometimes you work for a little less money. I never do free things, but I do think sometimes, I make less money on a project, so I get more money on a project. So it depends if you're doing a service or a product, but if you're doing a service, get your foot in the door and just figure out one way of collaborating. And you'll be surprised how even high-end brands, like, it depends what you mean by high-end, but like a higher end hotel or, some kind of high-end, I don't know much about fashion, but there's different higher end kind of places that are actually, right, everybody has people working there and all people are just trying to do their job. So if you get to a specific person or you ask your friends, hey, do you know anybody over there? Can you introduce me? Or do you know anybody with this type of work? Can I just, pitch, and not even pitch me, but just figure out any way of getting your foot in the door to at least have somebody respond to your email. And then I feel like as long as you have one or two of those projects under your belt, like for example, I had, Google called me, and they actually found me, but I did a workshop for 5 people. I did not make much money on that at all. But then I'm like, I could say, hey, I did Google, so as soon as you say you do Google, then you get more Google and you get more large, clients. And so I always think of it as like building blocks, but just, figure out who you want to do it for. Anybody in your LinkedIn network that can help get you there from RISD or from other places. I actually was very lucky. I had a great, somebody I reached out to from RISD, who we had a friend in common, and he kind of put me in touch with his company, and we just did a brand workshop for their company. But actually, I didn't even call him with the intention of getting a workshop. I was actually just trying to ask him about his job and that company. I was kind of curious about what life was like at one of these tech firms. So it was pretty cool that people are willing to help you. You just have to kind of not feel like you're selling. You're just trying to collaborate and see what happens. And then they're more willing to let you do things together, and then you'll be selling. So yeah, but about the ads, I'm not sure. Maybe we'll visit it at the end, and maybe people have better ideas through the chat. I don't typically do ads for my services. So
Great, thank you. So Peter has a question about portfolio websites and is wondering for the landing page, is it good to have it cycle through a variety of key images, or should I have separate tabs for such areas as like architectural designs and personal artwork?
so yes, so let me I would say, again, my experience is I like for gallery, for portfolio pages, I think it's really important to show everything at once. I mean, meaning like I like grids, or I like the, the slideshow that transitions through, but don't just expect people to find everything by the tabs up above. My old website kind of did that, my old portfolio site, where there were tabs and then there was a couple of photos, but really people didn't know where to click, and they're not going to just click on random words like names of projects, for example. So, I mean, some did, but it just wasn't really that clear. What's really engaging with portfolios is that homepage has a lot of photos that are just evocative. And then it doesn't matter which photo they click on, they're just feeling like they get a good sense of who you are from that first page. So that's for portfolio sites has been my experience, depending on, again, and that's sort of what I do for my art as well. Just kind of have very image heavy first page with multiple photos, and then they could kind of start exploring deeper. And my navigation is organized and clear, but I would say most people do not go through the navigation. They just kind of want picture click, situation. So yeah, good question though. But I will talk about that when I start showing it and I do get into the Squarespace site. So yes.
Great, thank you. We do have one question on SEOs, and I don't know if you want to touch upon that now, but Alyssa's wondering if there's any SEO companies you recommend for a small business with a relatively small budget to spend on it.
I have not worked with any companies. Again, I did my own. Again, this is why I don't feel like I do a little of everything. I'm not like a deep diver into some of these situations. But for example, there's a company called Cultivate, and they do webinars. I mean, they do like a lot of, actually they do events. They're from LA here. But they started doing a lot more online, sometimes even free events, like they might even have one coming up, I'm not sure. So they get, for $10, $20, you could attend a day of panel discussions. It's sometimes like a whole 2 hours is spent on SEO. So I would kind of look into, even before you hire someone, I would actually try to really look at webinars about like, just what are people saying about this? Because again, hiring someone could be a couple $1,000s at least, I would say, from what I've, gotten PR or other quotes I've kind of perused. And I always want to make sure that they're not just like doing something I could do. Again, and there's levels, right? Like I can't do everything for sure. And I'm sure they could definitely improve, but I think you should really get a better sense of what are, again, are there already webinars that will help you really kind of at least do 10% of the first work? And then you could kind of ask, okay, who are specialists in this field? So Create and Cultivate also has a Facebook group. So again, if you attend one of their, any of their events, and again, they have now like for $10 or for very inexpensive prices, you could do their virtual. And then you join this Facebook group, and then on there all day long, there's people asking, hey, I need SEO help. What, pitch me, or can you give me a quote? And so I just found this, again, always ask others to kind of put yourself in the reverse. And I would just ask people to submit their proposals, and then you kind of see how they submit it, and seeing what they've done will help you, and then get their budgets right. So again, younger people might actually work for less money, but they're actually probably better than larger established firms, maybe because they're more personal and they're more, willing to do a lot more for you. So I would say that rather than think of it as like a huge investment that you have to hire a firm that maybe will be a couple $1,000s, is A, do your homework and just learn more about this and see what you can do. And then B, join like a forum, like a Create and Cultivate Facebook group, or maybe there's others I'm not aware of, and get people to be like, hey, I'm looking for this type of work, who can help me? And they're gonna, they look for graphic designers, they look for people all the time for different things. And so then you kind of can have multiple people submitting their stuff to you, and you could see who they are and then just go from there. So I would do it that way. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We do have some more questions, but I think that they can wait if you wanted to get into the next section. Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And yes, and somebody put, and I'm glad people are chatting. So please, thank you for, oh yeah, great. People are already answering some of these questions. So look at the chat. I don't have time to type everything. But so glad you guys are sharing information. And yeah, we'll move forward. So to move forward, I'm going to again share my screen again. And I definitely, you know, it's only 2 hours today we have today, so it's very short time. And let me go here. Okay, so I want to talk about this. So this is my Squarespace website, my dashboard. And I want to quickly, I'll take 5 minutes on each of these pages that I've done to tell you a little bit about, like we just talked about, like what are the differences? Because the most important thing about Squarespace, you'll find when you get on Squarespace and you try to, you know, get a template. And just so you know, I think the trial is free for the first 14 days. At least, I think 14 days. And then you don't have to put a credit card in. So you could play around with different templates and see what works for you. So again, sometimes I do just that. I have my idea of what I want. I kind of look at their templates, what they're offering, and then I just pick one and I just start using it. And then I just start seeing if I like how, you know, my content is working on that template. But with that in mind, you know, I kind of want to show, you know, so for example, we talked about portfolio websites. We just talked about this, that this is my, you know, agnesp.com website. I just redid this in the beginning of quarantine because as a graphic designer, I feel like, you know, you have to have a good website. And my other one was a little bit outdated, but what I wanted this time around, I literally built this in less than a week, but I already had a lot of the work for my old website and I organized it. So, you know, some of these projects are older, some of these projects are newer. But I pretty much, you know, I had time this time around to do these mock-ups of my graphic design work. So I wanted, you know, I mean, I was a creative director right before here at Harvard Westlake, and you know, so I'm not going to go into the details of every project, but I really wanted mock-ups. So again, if you're a graphic designer, think of that way, or if you're, you know, ID designers, how you show your work is just as important as the website. So in this case, I wanted to do, you know, to show my magazines and things that I've creative directed, and I had to redo this. So this is the part that took the longest time. Was just photoshopping all of these, but I bought, you know, templates that would help me get there. So in this particular website, like I said, if you look at portfolio sites, my goal of this one was to have all of my photos on the home page for all of my, you know, projects. I did not want to have words. I just really wanted to have a visual page, like a grid of color, and then people could scroll through and just see what I've done. And I started working in 2006, so I have a lot of projects. So I kind of had to curate the ones that I liked, the ones that I did them in collaboration with other firms I've worked at. I've worked at large, like Gensler and, you know, Sussman Prasia, like pretty large teams. And I'm not really showing, this is mostly my own personal work. I don't show a lot of corporate work, except when it came to these murals, for example, that those are corporate projects, but I did them 100% myself. So it's okay, you know, I mean, I don't know if you're a graphic designer, you have to kind of figure out if you can share some of your corporate projects. You could share them. Like this was one of the first projects I did when I first graduated from RISD. It's still my top favorite. So I wanted to include it. So anyway, so this is like a portfolio website, colorful grid of photos. And this was really, the template was what it is. And then when you click into each of the projects, they're full page, you know, images. So again, this is like an Indian restaurant to the branding for. So because of that, that was sort of the goal. I picked a template that was clear. You know, in Squarespace, you have opportunity to customize the fonts. You know, you could upload your own logo. So things like that you could redo. You know, again, and very clear navigation up here. It's my, you know, design content, the strategy I do for clients. Again, I have more photos for some of the content. I was trying to get more content work. So I was really trying to show what I could do in that realm for creative direction, for photo shoots, things like that. And then again, my about page, and then clients, really important. You really, whatever you do, you want to kind of show who you've worked for. That speaks a lot. And then maybe testimonials. So again, really clear services as well, right? Like I never did this kind of page before, but I found that people really want to do, if you're an architect, what can you do? Be really clear about that and then show photos. And again, I think people will hopefully respond. So that's just a very simple portfolio site is one of the pages I've done. And again, the goal of that one was, you know, it's similar. So for example, this is another website, another portfolio site. So Squarespace gives you a lot of different templates for portfolios. And when you first get into Squarespace, you'll see, you get to pick, right? You tell it you want a portfolio. So I did this for Utkan, actually. He's that photographer I was mentioning. And he, you know, in this case, he wanted all photo heavy. He only wanted one photo. It's like a slideshow. He actually has updated the fonts. Unfortunately, I had better fonts on here, but he owns it now. So I'll let him, you know, it's his website. I just built it for him. But anyway, so you can see it's a different type of portfolio. He didn't want a grid of photos. He wanted this immersive experience of this full image that's in your site, right? So because of that, he made it really clear. and I think the navigation of this, yeah, of this site. So again, one thing to know about Squarespace is you can customize, but you don't change the structure of each of the pages. So, if I found a template that has a large photo like this, and I have, navigation at the bottom, I could probably change the navigation font. I could probably change the size, but I'm not going to change the structure. If I want a grid of photos, I don't pick this template, so you have to be really, your template has to reflect your end goal of how you want to show things. And, Utkan's case, again, he really wanted these photos, which again, are so beautiful. And he takes so much time. He goes all around the world and he, hikes and backpacks and take these photos. And so he really, again, that was his goal. That's how he's showing it. And the one thing I kind of encouraged him to add, which, let's say it's not his whole brand, but I was like, why don't you add photos from, the stuff you've done for Crave Workshops? Because again, if we want to hire you for events, like I was trying to encourage him to get work with schools, whatever, like, he needed to show something different, because if a school sees this type of work, they're not going to hire him to do a school event. So if he wants to make money doing that, he needs to show that as well. So, and sometimes it's better to have separate websites for that. But in this case, he just, put a tab to kind of, have some of that work. So, okay, so that's, let me go back to Squarespace here. Okay, and just so you know, and we're gonna talk about this in like 10, 15 minutes about this is how you design everything in Squarespace. This is all your features, but I'm gonna go through two other types of websites before we get there. But this is exactly the kind of, this is where this shows your navigation, this shows how your website is organized. And so as you start, again, getting the templates, you have control of how you name all the pages and how you want them to go. And this is a drag and drop. So again, very easy to be like, okay, this particular website, this is the navigation. The main navigation is welcome, stills, motion, events, which appears as of page 2, I think. But then under that, you have your sub pages. So again, all of this is controlled through this tab area, this category area over here. So, and that's for every single Squarespace website. So we're going to talk about the rest of these in a second. So going back, so we have two portfolio type of sites. We have, again, I'm not talking about all my websites I've done, but for example, this is an e-commerce site. So e-commerce acts a little bit differently because there's, they have upgraded their features for the e-commerce, the checkout, but this was done in December of last year. So this was before the new Squarespace 7.2 or 7.1. So this didn't have all the customizations that the new one has. But I built this website to show my hand-dyed goods. As I talked about the last branding seminar, originally I was going to do my art and my hand-dyed goods together on the same website, and then I kind of realized that they're different things and that I really need to sell them differently and show them differently and not mix them. And so I decided to kind of create two separate brands for them. And truthfully, this particular, these are all one-of-a-kind unique goods. I typically sell directly to consumers at different shows or just in my studio. I've done some pop-ups, so I don't really typically sell a lot through my website. But this website is a showcase of just what I can do. And again, if people are hiring me for workshops, they kind of want to see what I can do as an artist too. So it's been sort of a portfolio for my art workshops to show I teach tie-dye, and this is stuff I've dyed. So again, sometimes my goal is not, I don't want to make hundreds of products. It's very labor intensive. So I don't want to have a whole line of fashion goods. So my goal here is really more of a showcase. And I spent more time just with this photo shoot. Again, I talked about in the last session, but the more important part was to have these products be shot in a beautiful way. This was at the One Hotel in LA. And again, really the goal was just to showcase them as like beautiful products. And then yes, you could also buy them. So this particular e-commerce site was pretty limited with how the e-commerce worked. So, it had a home page. Then it had, the categories, which I set. So we had control over what the categories are. And then, of course, I had control over our story and our process. But then within each piece, then you click on the product. So this part was a little less customizable. I mean, this was, again, they've changed it recently. So they made it more, you could kind of change the fonts differently and you could kind of add more personality to this. But this was sort of a default checkout. But again, I liked it just because I liked the idea. It's a big photo. There's multiple photos here, so people could kind of go through them. And again, this was all uploaded through the e-commerce portal. So each product, so one thing about it's different than portfolio sites and e-commerce is that every product gets uploaded separately, and it's a lot more work that goes into it. Again, we don't have that much time today to talk about all the details, but just so you know, it's a little bit more work for e-commerce to get everything uploaded with the pricing, because it's tied directly to your orders and your inventory and that kind of thing. So unlike, you know, and again, if you're just doing a portfolio site, you don't need this part at all. So do not pay for like an e-commerce site, because this level, I would say, is the most expensive for Squarespace. But it is the plan that you need if you want to take orders and take money. So again, on my inventory, my customers, you know, I do discounts and even point of sale tools. So all of that is here, the payments, the shipping, even taxes and accounting. So again, this is very, Squarespace originally didn't have that much e-commerce. It was more a portfolio kind of site destination, but they've really ramped this whole world up. So now if somebody wants to, you know, for example, buy this coat, there's a lot more control in here of, you know, it's up to me to, you know, I upload all the photos, I put all the information, I put the stock, I mean, you put dimensions on it. So this is sort of the amount of information for every single product. So it definitely takes time to do it. And it's, you could duplicate products and, you know, and then you could kind of add more photos. But I myself was, you know, this took a lot of time just to get the products up there. But then once you do it once, and you write your descriptions, things like that, and you also add in tags and SEO. This is something that, again, this is a little bit different than portfolio sites. I just wanted to kind of show it so you're aware of it. But, and at the end, again, I particularly picked this particular template because, again, I wanted the photos to be as large as possible. And again, truthfully, I really just wanted, let's see here, pages. Because again, this is my navigation, so you could see that same thing of how the site is organized. You could see, you know, I have a pop-up tab, which I'm not even using now, so I probably should take it down. And what's interesting that if I want to take it down, I don't want it appearing. All I do is just move it here under not linked, and then it disappears from the pop-up. So everything, all the features here are live. So this is, again, I just removed the tab. So again, it's live. It changes as you change it. If you don't want people looking at it when you're live, you can make it disabled for a temporary time. But again, everything I'm doing is affecting it live, which is pretty good. So again, so this is, again, I really think about when you're showing your products, how you want this first page to look, and then how image heavy do you want it to be. And then whatever that is going to impact, again, all my secondary pages. You can see here quickly as well. They're all the same way, right? Like they have to have the same structure. So they have a banner image here in the back, and they have multiple grid of multiple photos. In this case, I was showing some of the process, but it looks exactly the same, and it has to look exactly the same. So that's, again, Squarespace 7, the original e-commerce platform. And then the fourth type of website I'm going to show is the new Squarespace. Again, I have other websites. I'm not going to go into all of them, but I've built stuff for like small hotels, things like that. But the one of them here I want to talk about is, let's see here, my agnesartshop.com. So this is what I'm going to get into as we get to, you know, we take the last 30 minutes just kind of getting into Squarespace, the nitty gritty details of everything. But this is the new 7.2. It's, and you can't really, nowhere does it even say 7.2, but the navigation, once you start looking at it, it's different, and how you interact with it is different. So for the purposes of today's workshop, just be aware that it's a new Squarespace. It's sort of like a new back-end UI, like everything about how you work with it is very different. So we're gonna be doing that today, but there are differences. So if you have your website on Squarespace already, chances are you're on the previous version. And so you can't do as much as 7.2 can do. And again, and you can switch your website to a new platform, but it's really complicated. Things get kind of messed up a little bit. So if you want to do a new website, I would just say start with the new, 7.2. If you have an old website, I would still say make a new one, or you could change it over, but then just know a lot of your features are going to kind of get very mixed up. So because I'm just kind of show you why. So again, you can see here, this is my Agnes art shop. I built this the most recently. Oops. And what I liked about 7.2, and even what I liked about this website, was I really wanted to show my artwork. But again, I wanted to show my artwork in a very, I like, large images. I like full page bleeds. I I also liked layering of images, which was not really possible before, unless again, you could kind of get around it by layering in Photoshop and just uploading it here. But here, all of this is done through Squarespace. So the type on top of the image, this image on top of an image. So again, that's all new features, which I really love, the backgrounds and the foregrounds. And the biggest sell about 7.2 is that each page, you're adding kind of sections to it. So you're not just adding a new page. So I could keep adding all these custom pages. So I mean sections. So meaning here, you know, I wanted to showcase all my different collections. The way I organized this particular website was that I have, you know, each, you know, I have my Medina collection, I have my Boulders collection, which, you know, are all screen printed, but they're just done, you know, they're different themes and different colors. And so I really wanted to show them as separate things. So it's not just screen printed artwork all jumbled together, because they would not match each other. So again, I really wanted them to be distinct pages and distinct, different checkout pages, if that makes sense. So that was not possible in 7.0. You only have really one page that has all of your goods on it. And here I can have separate pages and they have different shopping carts with them. So for example, and some of these, again, for example, Shop Minted, that's actually, I'm taking them out of my website. So you can also link your site to other sites, you know, if you want to show maybe your work was featured somewhere. So it's okay. It just opens a new browser window and it goes to Minted again, because I sell my work on Minted as well. So, but I wanted to kind of have it be a cohesive experience. So I had the photos all matched. And again, in this case, I spent the time to Photoshop, you know, these are all templates I bought off Creative Market. So these are not my own custom photo shoot, like it was for Crave Goods. And so I didn't want to just show the art. I really wanted to show the art in context of a room. It seems to sell better when people kind of imagine it in their space. Again, for my type of art, depending on what your type of art is, it might not, you know, depends. But I thought, it was really important. I looked at Minted, which again, some of you may know, Minted is an amazing platform that sells reproductions from artists. And I was just trying to learn of like, how are they selling art? Because if you just show the actual piece scanned, it looks kind of flat online. So everyone now is doing, you know, these Photoshop lifestyle scenes. And again, I purchased all of this through Creative Market, and it's been really helpful. So anyway, and then again, I keep going, right? And then I have my newsletter at the bottom. So this is awesome in terms of being able to make it so customizable and different. So for example, I'm going to click on the Boulders collection. And this was like, I had no idea that 7.2 could even do this until I started building this website through this, you know, new version of Squarespace. So again, I think it's always important to kind of tell people what you're doing. And maybe I write a lot, I don't know, maybe you write less, but just write something that people can understand what your collection is. And you can see here, you know, so this is my e-commerce site. If you mouse over, you hover over, it has different images. So I think that's a feature for all of their e-commerce that hover over. But again, I thought it was really important to show both the art without anything in it, and then with, you know, a room scene. And so and then once you click into the actual art piece, again, this is similar to what I showed with Crave Goods, but it has, you know, all of my pieces here. And this one got messed up because it's square. So yeah, typically you want to make sure all of them are the same proportions so that they all look good in a row. But anyway, and then you have your add to cart. So again, this is all, people purchase it and you get a notification if they purchase it. So as you can see here, my navigation up here is organized by those collections. And so if people want to go through the navigation, they could find other stuff, other collections. So again, that was sort of the intention. I have a background image up here with all of the inspiration photos of where all this came from. My artwork is always inspired by a place that I visited. And so that was really important to kind of add in to share with, to show their story behind these pieces. And then of course my about page. And again, what's really great, also your cart and your Instagram is tied up there too. And again, and sometimes, you know, maybe I actually had other pieces that I didn't want, they're not yet available for sale. So you could just create a gallery page. So these are just photos. There's no shopping cart integration with them, but this was done for like a custom collector who wanted to buy 12. So I just quickly put them all up what I had and I sent it to him and he picked, you know, the 12 that he wanted. So there's ways that, you know, he didn't want to, he was just paying me offline, not directly through the website, but I wanted to get it up there so he could pick. And so that this part was really easy to do. It's really much easier putting up a gallery page and putting up products, because the gallery just put up like all photos at once done. You don't have to like wait for all the information and like type in all the other stuff about the e-commerce. So anyway, so this is something to think about. You know, if you don't want to sell everything online, you could sell certain things online, and then other collections or pieces, you could just have galleries as a separate tab or as a separate, you know, page, so that people could look at all your other stuff. Like this was done for somebody else that bought 4 pieces. So again, I just put them all up, and he chose, and I did Photoshop them just so he could imagine what they look like. But that was it. Like he picked which ones he liked and he bought them. So they're not for sale directly through here. So that's just something you want to think about. You could do that option as well, and you could do both on the same site. So not everything has to be a product. So yes, so then the other thing I wanted to add also to this is, let's see. Oh yeah, if any questions or anything that's coming up.
Agnes, I do have a quick question.
Okay.
Heather is wondering, what's the template that you're showing for the boulders? For this, what template did you use for those?
Okay, I think that was, let's talk about template. It's a good question. I don't remember, but let me look if I can find it. So oops, here, I just logged out of myself here. So when you go into your page, let's see here, and they always change this around. So let me see, websites. I think under design, it tells you the template. Let's see, is it under settings? Nope, they changed this around. I think maybe it's under design. Let me get back to you at the end. They used to be under, we could change template easily, but not anymore. No, this is new too. Yeah, I don't remember, but once we get through the templates, I'll recognize it. So yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you. No, that's fine.
They did
Thank
just
you.
change it. Like they always like, especially 7.2, all of this is a little bit different than 7.0, but it's somewhere in here because you could always switch your design. So I would assume it's somewhere in settings, but for example, here you could actually, you know, link, I can make it public, I can make it private, all your billing goes into this, but somewhere there's like a templates tab. So I will find it, yes, before we finish. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
We do have a few more questions. I don't know if you want to wait till the end for them or if you want me to address them now. It's totally up to you.
Let's wait because I want to make sure. Let's wait till like 11:45, and then we'll take 15 minutes. So that way I don't. Yeah, I realized this is. I guess last time I taught this I had 3 hours, so there's a lot to cover. But yeah, let's wait till 11:45, and then that will be a good time to kind of go over everything. So
great, no problem.
Thank you.
Of course.
Great. So yeah, so and then one thing again, I would say this commerce site, which we talked about before, you could see here, it's a little bit different than the 7.0, but just, you know, orders. I mean, currently I've only, you know, had a couple orders here, but it tells you all of the orders. And so again, you could kind of, I'm not gonna, so you guys get privacy here, but you know, click through your orders, you get all the information. So all of that's stored in there. So if you sell a lot, it's really a good way of staying organized and having all the information so you can easily ship every product to your customers. You could also, again, add your shipping. You know, you could, so you tell it what you want the shipping to cost and things like that. So all of that, again, is integrated through here. It's really helpful when I started doing this. Payments, checkout, again, taxes, accounting, all of that is really, again, a good way to stay organized and just to know that you don't have to do, before I was using other like third-party, you know, tools to kind of stay organized on top of what I was selling, so I could keep track of it for tax purposes. So all of that is here, so I can always just run, you know, at the end you could, you know, create a doc, like a CSV of all of what you've sold. So again, for taxes, it's really clear, and you don't have to like worry about missing things. So anyway, really important there. So yeah, so I'm going to kind of get out of this website and now get back into the Squarespace template. So just so you kind of are aware of different types of websites, different type of goals, and then also different customizations. So I'm going to, so let's all get into, you know, yeah, I'm going to end in the marketing actually email. So before we do the marketing, I'm going to go to Squarespace. So let's go to Squarespace together. And I kind of want to lead you through the journey of what it looks like when you come to the page. So again, I really like how they've streamlined it, and you can see here, so templates. So I want a new website. I'm going to do a 14-day trial. The way that they've organized it, which again, I think is really clear, is to type, like we talked about, like if you have a portfolio site, that's probably different than an e-commerce site. Even if you're doing an event or a wedding, you can easily, you know, use one of these themed these themed areas to start your website. And they, you know, they take the work, so online stores. So they take the work, the hard part, oh yeah, here's my template. So here's Maru, so you can see it. Yeah, so this is the template I started for my Agnes art, but I said I want an online store, right? So I kind of already picked what's my direction. And then I went through and I was like, which one do I like? And knowing that I could customize a little bit, and here they've even added more. So it's interesting that they keep adding new templates. So this one definitely looks new. And what I love about what they do, and so is like they already kind of show it with products in there. So you can really imagine what it's going to look like for your stuff. So here we are in Maru, which is, again, this is my agnesartshop.com. And it previews what it looks like, again, without any other, this is no customization at all. And again, why I picked it was I liked this image overlay. I like the product shot, and I liked the photo, the background, and I liked the typography, which can be changed, but I just liked kind of how it all fit together. And so you can see here, this was the kind of the basic page, and my page is a lot longer. So this is kind of what I said, that you can keep going and build more. I could easily duplicate sections. I could make more. I could add less, make more. But the structure is what is not changeable. So picked Maru. And again, if you quickly want to look at what Maru looks like on here on mobile, you can. So it still does the image overlap, but then it does, just the grid is no longer, the photos are not in a grid. They're just, top, bottom, and a column. So again, really, I went through, I looked at them, for example, I haven't even seen this one yet, so I don't know what this one looks like. But I'm like, oh, do I like this template? And then do I really want to start using it? And my case, I didn't do a lot of customizations, but you can see here, what I like about it is that already you're like, oh, I like how they have photos. In this case, they have a photo, they have type on the right, they have type on the left. So already it kind of gives you ideas of how to organize your website. And I would say, if you're just starting out, use those ideas. They look great. They've had designers, I'm sure they take a lot of time and energy to to get this template. And I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, it shows my newsletter. It shows, gives me ideas of how what I want to show for my business, and then how it can be shown. And all I have to do is drag and drop. So let's just go. I'm going to start with this one. Actually, I'm not gonna start with that one, but hold on. So yeah, so again, pick your category. So maybe you could do that live if you're, if you're going to be working with me in tandem. So pick a category and then make it, make it live so you can start working with it. And then I'm going to go back to this template, which is, this is not live. I mean, I paid for it, but it's not finished. And I've been kind of going through the steps with you. So if you guys could pick a template and kind of get it up online, so you could kind of follow along and also, yeah, don't just listen to me, but actually get a chance to be interactive with it. That'd be great. So here we are. This is a template. This is a new template I picked. It's not published yet, and you can hear it's not finished yet. So I really wanted to, I have my Crave Workshops website, which is, let me go back here. This is my old website. This is done on 7.0. It's been up since 2017. So honestly, it's I like things about it. I like the videos and I know that I have my information up here, which I try to make clear. And then really, I just have a lot of type because I'm really trying to get these corporate workshops. So, and I kind of don't want to change this website, truthfully. I'm going to keep it up. It's doing well on SEO. So every time you change a website to a new website, it's going to really affect on my Google, everything on Google. So I'm not going to take this down. I'm going to keep this up. And again, people are finding me, people are connecting with me, people are emailing me. So it's doing its job. And if here, you can see on my clients, I work with things like that. So again, but I don't think it's a very pretty website. Like, it's just very heavy on text and videos. And originally when I started doing it, these are all the previous workshops I've taught. And so I still have all those up because I think it's important for me to always, I wanted large photos and I wanted, type, but again, this is sort of my portfolio for future clients to be like, oh, hey, we did, Lululemon, let me send you a photo of that experience. And so in here I have all my new experiences. So again, I'm going to keep this website as it is, but I kind of was thinking maybe I should do like a new website for just corporate and make it more engaging and just shorter and lighter and more fun and more colorful. And so I'm sort of in the process of doing that. I'm going to keep this, alive, but I'm sort of trying to think about how can I rethink how I show my corporate workshops and just do that and not even show my older previous, experiences, just show the new one. So again, this is the template that I just got. I haven't even updated my photos on it yet, but you can see here, it has, again, the tab, it has large type, it has the left, the right photos. And I wanted to play with more color. So what's nice about it, so okay, yeah, it's sort of halfway built at this point, is that I haven't, updated all of the bottom, but I wanted to have multiple colors. I wanted to have bright, warm colors, not just white. And I wanted to kind of see, yeah, big type. So again, this is sort of the work in progress of the rehaul. And you can see here the way that we would edit it. So again, going back to having us do this together, we have our navigation, like I already talked about. And the one thing to know about this navigation portal is you have your main navigation and you have your not linked navigation. So not linked doesn't show up in your navigation, but it's still live. So you could always give people a link like Crave Workshops / Google, for example, which I have, which is a private page that I send to my clients if they're trying to do an event, but I don't want everybody in the world to be able to go there. I can also password protect that page. But I really found that, typically I don't have to go to that extreme. But I do kind of always have private pages, that, for example, yeah, like I build and then I just give the URL to people. And then for example, for each of all our virtual workshops, oops, here, this thing's being weird. Yeah, this is on my Crave Workshops, but all my virtual workshops have a custom page for each of the experiences. And so I don't want that to appear in the main navigation. So this is this not linked section. So just so you're aware of what that is. So again, really easy under services. You click on services and you're going to get to that page. And like I said, this is not built yet. This is not my photography, obviously. This was a beauty template. So I'm going to be changing it to obviously not be beauty, but to be my art workshops. But I'm trying to kind of have this lightness of how I like how the photographs are not in a boring square grid, that they're kind of more organic. And I like that there's these nice ways that they're kind of animating on screen. So anyway, so you could kind of see that. Start with something that you like, kind of how the photos are working, and then make the type your own, make the colors your own. So that's all up here. So again, navigation really clear. You could, if you move, they're all drag and drop. So if I move it around, it's gonna go back to home. So it's gonna reorder the whole navigational toolbar. So design is kind of where this is the bulk of probably where you'll spend your time if you want to customize. And so this is the part that's very different than 7.2. So if I want to edit any of my pages, right, I am here, and it's very visual. What you see is what you get, friendly. And all you do is you just click. So, if I want this to say anything else, whatever, you just start typing. So after you hit edit, you save, and that's it. It's live. So again, in this case, this website is not live because I haven't finished the whole, it's not finished yet. But if it's already live, if craveworkshops.com is live, whatever change I make to it will also be live. So just be aware that sometimes if you're changing type, maybe just do screenshots of what you already had written, so you don't lose the content, because there's no history, there's no backups, there's no undo. All of it is live. So just be aware. So again, very easy text. And what's interesting about here is this, again, this part is new. So these are all sections. So this is all one page, technically speaking, but these are all sections on that page. So if I want to duplicate the section, I click on this, and you can see here, it literally duplicates that exact module. So I could, keep going. I could change the color. And if I want to edit the module, this is how I edit. So I click on the pencil. And again, this is something that, I literally was emailing customer service like at 2 a.m. every other night with some of these questions. So like, how do I make my image full bleed? Or I didn't even know, for example, that all of these modules have different colors, which is, again, this is new. So you don't have to have one color for the whole website. Like in my other templates, if I picked white to be the background color, like white had to be the background color for every page. Here, every section can be a different color. And I could change that color under other settings. But here, so I kind of set these defaults, these orange, these purples. I did that in the color palette, the black, whatever it is, but it's kind of amazing, which again, I think it makes the whole web experience. What I like about Squarespace is that they're going with the trends of where web design is going. Before, web design was more about white pages and full page bleed images. And now I feel like color and just larger type and just more bold you know, showcase of work is much more popular. So again, this is new and I think so amazing. And then here again, if I want to add a video or an image, I do that through this part. And here I can actually control whether it's full bleed or inset. But inset is just, you're going to have the white space around, or full bleed is, you know, the whole page. So again, that this box is new. And so I think it kind of took me some time to even realize all the potential here. Also, you could kind of make it taller or shorter, and it gives more space to that. So again, there's a lot of customization in this tab that when you just use the pencil for it. And then here you could drag and drop tabs below each other. So again, if I want to move, so what I did, my agnesartshop.com, you know, the boulders was above the India. I didn't have to delete it. I just could just drag it above the other one. So I could, you know, organize the order of how it appears, the top. So yes, yeah, very, very kind of fun. I'm not discard changes here. So yeah, then you have to save it and then it's live. So that's the fonts, the colors. The other thing to be aware of, again, is a little bit different here, is that the way that this particular Squarespace version works is that they're trying to make the fonts less. I think before you had control, you could pick any font you wanted you had 4 different typefaces through your website. And the way that fonts appear, you could start seeing here. And then actually go back to edit. So I'm gonna go back to edit. So the way, for example, I'm in here, I have my text. Here, I can, you know, make it left line, right line, bold, all the kind of standard features. This part is where I change the type size, but I can't really do unlimited sizes. So I only have my heading 2, my heading 3, and then, you know, my paragraphs, right? So all of these are different sizes. And so later when I'm kind of going through my website, I know that, okay, my headline 2s are like this, and my headline, you know, and this is still headline 2, right? So the size is based on the category of the typeface. And so then let's say I save. And the category, which again, this is a little bit different. The category is here through the fonts window. So I can't change the fonts here because the fonts are all part of a font package. And I could switch my package, my font pack, but I can't switch it within each. So they don't want you to have a page with 100 different fonts on it. Like we talked about the loading of the fonts into your website. So anyway, so this is where I have control over which packages I want my website to look like. And as soon as I click on the package, it updates everything. So again, that's something that's a little bit different than before. I'm gonna cancel it because I don't like that font, but you have a lot more control of the fonts. You just kind of have to do it in a different way. So just so you're aware of that. And then the other things that I know we have a short time here, so I want to kind of talk about the most important. There's colors. You could change your colors here. So again, this is where you edit your color palette. So this is editable. I can make any colors I want, but you only have the 3 or 4 to work with. So they're trying to kind of limit. They don't want to give you like 100 options because that is usually overwhelming. It's not going to look good. So they want to kind of limit that, and that's how they're doing it. So again, since we're short on time today, just so you know, this is kind of where you do things. And then if I want to add things, the most important thing is, let's say I want to add a gallery, right? So again, I use that tab. And this is again, this pops up, and this gives you so many options for how you want your galleries to look. So you could do your gallery, you could do, a gallery of multiple photos. You could do, headlines, which are the background photos with the type on it. So again, and you can see here, these fonts are, again, part of that font pack that I just showed you. So all of it's going to look really good, really consistent, but they give you a lot of options to start with. So again, I think that this is the new thing, which I'm so into, and I think it's going to really help all these websites look a little bit more unique, like having things like this colorful box, overlaid on an image, things like that are just, I feel like, a little fresher. So, and then it also have a lot of other things. You could do a video, you could do quotes, you could even, they started building, you could do menus if you do a restaurant. So again, really take advantage of this is sort of the meat and the most important part of the new Squarespace is whatever website you're building. If it's just a portfolio, you might not need all of it. But if you're doing a restaurant or if you're doing whatever kind of thing you're doing, this is already, these integrations that they have with Open Table and other things are really helpful. And again, that's sort of why you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just start with the forms, the newsletters. If you want to do a newsletter block, it gives you all the options you could do for that. So again, so know that the way that this appears is just here when you click on the plus between the sections. So again, very clear, very easy, very visual, but I'd really just like to keep adding more and more features. So that's it. So you can see here, that's sort of that. I mean, again, other things to be aware of. Again, all your analytics are here in this tab, and this is obviously not live, so there's no analytics here. But you could see here, this is where I talked about analytics earlier, that you could talk about your traffic sources, where everyone's coming from, you know, and then kind of get more engagement info here. So that's that tab. And then somewhere in here, there's that tab about what template this is. But again, I don't know. The marketing, and one, I'm going to end on this, but I'm going to leave, hold on, I'm going to leave this website, because since I haven't purchased the commerce plan on this, the features are not there. So I'm going to go back to this website, which I have purchased the plan on. So again, if you haven't purchased all the features of the plan, if you're just doing a portfolio, it's not going to let you do all these things, right? So here we are, you know, I talked about, I'm going to end today's talk with two things. We're talking about the marketing and the SEO. And the promotional pop-ups. So all of that here, this is the marketing tab. And again, SEO, like we said, this is the basic. You could definitely hire an expert, and obviously they probably have experts as well. But you can do this yourself. And I would just say start with doing this yourself. So all I did here was I just put you put your title format, you put your description, and then over time, it starts appearing with this page. And again, I'm sure there's things you do to, of course, make it better, add more Google search words, but at least the bare minimum is every page should have something on it. And you could set one here that you could do, the whole site has this, and then you could change the SEO for individual pages. So again, that's something that without even hiring anybody, you could at least do on your own to start with, and then, you know, take classes and hire some help if you need it. But even this, like I said, has been tremendously valuable of having people find me. So it works. And the final thing I want to end on here are just email campaigns. So one thing, like I mentioned earlier, is there's other ways of doing email campaigns, MailChimp, and there's other newsletter campaigns, and some might be better, I don't know. But one thing that I've learned over the course of even now kind of listening to other marketing people talk is you don't own your clients in Instagram or Facebook, that all those people are there by choice. But if Instagram goes away tomorrow for whatever reasons, you just lost, your whole audience. So it's really important to kind of keep your audience by knowing their emails. And this is called, it's part of a marketing funnel. And so the way you do that is you build your own mailing list. So here I am, I have my newsletter at the bottom, and this is a very small mailing list. Again, all these things I feel like I don't ever put too much time in, like I'll start it and then I keep going on something else. But in this case, at least I have names, right? So every time I have a new announcement, these are all people who have attended some of my workshops. I just, sometimes I give people email signups, but mostly people kind of came to my workshop and were interested in kind of keeping in touch. And again, I feel like I should have I don't do this for my corporate clients because they don't want to share their emails, but if it was my personal websites, then they did. Anyway, but at least here it has my subscribers. You can kind of see here. And then I create a second mailing list for, I did another virtual get together in quarantine. So that was my other mailing list. So you have multiple mailing lists, which connects with that newsletter block that's in your page. And the one thing here, so I look into like my newsletter sent, and this is kind of what I'm going to end on. But again, what's really amazing about this is, so this was a newsletter I just sent out about these branding seminars. There you go. So, it's very visual. We did this, this was for the Otis ones, but whatever, so these are all my campaigns I sent out, and you can see here, I want them to be consistent. So all of this is editable within within Squarespace, but I upload finished Photoshopped images. So I do all this off Squarespace, and then the type and all that is on Squarespace. So again, a little bit limited with the fonts you can use. I don't love all of the fonts, but I do like the fact that it looks consistent. It works well, like people get it delivered. I could then analyze each campaign of how it was delivered, what it was, that kind of thing. So, the very first one I probably did, I've used other, let's see here, maybe this one. I probably used MailChimp for 2 years. So I just switched to this year. And again, I kind of was just playing around with like different things. I don't love the font, but I do think it's nice just to have that option. So anyway, so that's an opportunity that you should use if you have Squarespace. I think it costs $5 a month. And the final thing I want to just go over here before we get into questions is, oopsie, here, there it is, the pricing. So that one thing I came up when I was talking with Katie was just, and this might have come up last time, is just what are the pricing plans? And again, just so you're aware, I always think start with the least expensive until you need any of these features. So if you're building your site, even if you're building an e-commerce site, I would just start with the business, and you can either pay month to month or you could pay per year. And I think currently there's like there is some promotion, I think, that they have on their website that it's 20 or 10% off. So they always have like a 10% off or 20% off. So just so you know, but again, I mean, it's not inexpensive, but I would say this is still the least expensive thing for your business that you're probably going to spend. And I don't think you need all these advanced commerce ones. Most of mine are business, because you could still sell things on business. So again, if you want to compare and contrast, this makes it really easy. And just, you can kind of see what you get. But the one thing about the personal, so I have my graphic design portfolio through the personal, and it works really well. I don't need anything else. But if you want any of these email campaigns, things like that, you definitely will need at least the business plan. And then of course it's less expensive over, if you pay monthly, it's more. So I pay things, monthly or annually. So that's it. I mean, just very simple. I will stop share, but just so you kind of understand of like what you need to get set up.
Agnes,
And
just
so now
to
with your
touch-
questions.
sorry to interrupt you. While you have that site still up, we did have
Okay.
a question. Amelia was wondering about, every time that you create a new Squarespace website, is there an additional charge, or are there unlimited websites for the monthly fee? For like, say example, Amelia wants to have 3 different commerce websites. Is it $26 per website per month?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I spend so much money on Squarespace. As you saw, I have like 6 or 7. There is something called the Squarespace Circle, which I think they do like 10% off or something. But yeah, there's no, I've reached out to them. I'm like, can I do it a hybrid? No, but every page is a separate fee. And what's the bummer is that, as soon as you stop paying, it like disappears.
Okay.
So that's the only negative about Squarespace, which, I have my blog from 2011. I literally still pay for it because I just don't have the heart for it to have it disappear off the face of the earth. There's no way of really transferring it. There's like kind of a way of transferring it, but it didn't work. So they say that you could transfer things or at least download the images, but really it doesn't work well at all. So I would say, think of these websites as, if it's gone, it's gone. So I had like a retreat website, which I took down because I don't have retreats anymore, but then I'll have to redo the whole thing. Yeah. So that's there's no pause button on any of this. It's all live and you're paying, or it's not live. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's a bummer. I mean, I literally pay for so many. So, but the one thing it's good, just so you know, if you do pay for the year up front, you do get a free domain name for $20. Yeah.
That's funny. And let's say you take your advice and we go with the business plan, and then all of a sudden we're ready to go to commerce. Can we just upgrade at any point?
Yes. And they actually are good at prorating too. So if you've paid a year of your business and you want to upgrade to commerce, they're willing to charge you the difference. Like, you're not going to lose that whole year. So I've done that where like I upgraded my personal to a business, and they even prorate months. So yeah, some of my websites I pay for the whole year, and some of them I just do month to month. I mean, it depends what it is. Like if I'm just testing something out, I'll probably do a month of it, just see how it goes. But then, the ones they know are going to keep forever, I do a year. I mean, but yeah, but you could definitely, they're good at returning and prorating, and they have a really good customer service. The one thing I think it's only email or chat. You can't call, but their chat is really good. They even send you like videos of how to do things. So yeah, the prorating, all of that's really organized and it's easy to get through as well. Yeah.
Okay. And Tara has a question. She purchased a domain name through Wix, and she's wondering if she can use that domain name to build her site on Squarespace. Do you know if she can?
Yes, you can. So under, let's see here, where am I? It's under, I think, well, I always forget what things are, but somewhere there's a feature of domain names. It might be under settings or profiles. But I don't know, it must be under settings. But yeah, you could transfer a domain name. Yeah, domains here. You could transfer a domain name. So you can either get a domain or use a domain you own. And they have videos. They have videos of how to transfer from other popular sites, which again is very helpful. So like some of mine I bought on GoDaddy. They've made it much simpler to transfer. So yeah, you could totally do it. You just have to kind of look at their video and find out how, because there's settings and permission settings you have to change before it could get owned here. But it's possible. Yeah.
That's great. And let's say you bought a font. Are you able to upload that font to Squarespace?
No.
No.
Yeah.
That's
So
a
all the
bummer.
fonts, yeah, are only, but they have a lot. You'll be surprised. They have a lot of everything I kind of needed was there. But
Okay.
but one idea, if you have like a logo font, then you just make it into an image, right? So if you could also make images for anything. So if you want a font that has something here, I could upload an image here, a white, font with a transparent background, like a GIF, and it'll look like a font, but it won't be editable. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a couple questions about portfolio pages. So
Okay.
Ryan is wondering if Squarespace 7.1, can Squarespace 7.1 have a portfolio index grid like version 7.0? He's wondering like the Avenue or the flat iron template because he hasn't found a way to achieve that.
That's a good question. Let me look at other new ones. I mean, I haven't looked to see all their new ones to see what they have. They do typically have grids. And I would say if you want just the grid, you could still use the 7.0s. Like they still work, right? So they don't, it doesn't, if that makes sense, like it doesn't preclude you from using the previous versions. I would just say that some of the features get outdated a little bit. So I would start with the newest version I can. But I would, yeah, if there's not exactly that template, you could still probably use those templates. They still will work. The other thing is the galleries are different now. So there is a way of kind of creating your own. So let me kind of go back here. Where am I? Not pricing here. Oh yeah, going back here. But see, like you could do a gallery page. So sorry, I have to get back to my Squarespace. So you could kind of fake a gallery if that makes sense, but really I would say what's most important about the galleries are you want each of those pages to be a page. So kind of how I did this one, right? This was, where's my Agnes P? Oh, there, right. So this is a 7.0, it's not a 7.2. And it's that grid, the same grid that you're talking about, right? And so each page is, if I go under my navigation, each of these images is a page. So that might only be a 7.0, but again, you could use old templates, but this I think works really well for portfolios because it's clear. If I want to get rid of a page, or I just get rid of this, I get rid of the photo and then it's no longer a page. So yeah, for portfolios, I would still say stick with the templates that kind of have this feature.
Great. And for a portfolio website, can you have a public area and then a more of like a private password protected area that people can request to see? Or is it just, oh, okay, cool.
Yes, yeah. So this is actually, I did that for my content section here because some of this I didn't, or no, my strategy section you can see here. So some of these I have in-depth decks that I only share with clients that want to hire me. I don't want to give away, everything to everybody. So under here, I'm gonna kind of close that tab. So you can hear my content, my strategy. And so under if you hit this tool thing here, it tells you enable page and also add password. So you have control. Every page can have a password, which at some point I think I did. I probably took it off at this point, but I probably should put it back on. But anyway, so yeah, you can make it so this page becomes password protected, but the category is still live. So they could still, depending how you do it, you can either make it totally not appear at all. Again, kind of if I just drag Fresca to the not linked, it will no longer appear there and it'll be password protected, or now it appears here. It's not password protected. But you can make it password protected. That makes sense. So yeah, there's that all those settings are here, and I would say yeah, use them and yeah, kind of yeah, use this to kind of have some privacy for sure.
That's great. And just to confirm, somebody can build a portfolio template and then when they're ready to start selling, they can turn it into a commerce site by upgrading, correct? Or do they have to rebuild it from scratch?
Well, no, actually you do. So the commerce is built differently. So you do, if you want to sell products, you have to build the products. So yes, so that is actually a separate, it's a different process. So if you want to do products, a portfolio site is not going to get converted to a commerce site. So let's look at my commerce site again. Let's see here. Yeah, so and that kind of, yeah, maybe I could, yeah, be more clear here, but yeah, so you could have both on the same site. But you could see here, when I build this site, there's a shopping cart here. And so when I add a new page, so again, this is my e-commerce site. This is 7.2, but it works in a similar way, the previous one as well. You could see here how I add a store, which is different than add a portfolio. So if you want to be selling, you have to do the store, and it's very time consuming. You create a new category, create a new store, but in general, it takes time to get every product. Like you can see here, I click on Shop India, and actually they've just upgraded this because before they didn't have categories, but all of these are my separate products I'm selling, and I could then edit each one, or move it up, move it down, but I have to upload it differently. And this process, I would say, takes somewhat of a long time, especially if you have large images, because it would take me like a couple minutes just to upload everything because it's super slow. But again, and then one thing just to know about this little circle, this is just the FYI, is this is the focal point. This is really important if you have not square images and you want them to appear centralized. But yeah, so if you're going to do store, get the store up and running. You do have to pay for that business. You have to pay for the business version to be able to access this, not the commerce. The commerce even gives you more features, like you could then dictate, different shipping rates, or you have much more, controls for different customers. You could really be very selective. This one is very general. Like I have one shipping rate, so it's more of a general way of, I'm not selling a lot, but if I was doing a lot of different products and trying to sell to different people and have different shipping rates and just different controls, then I'd have to pay for the commerce. But you could still sell through the business, but build it correctly. Yeah, build it as a store, not as a portfolio. It's a good question.
And across all the different types of pages, so portfolio, business, commerce, let's say I start building a template for a portfolio and I realize I don't like the way it looks. Can I change the template, or do I have to rebuild from start?
You could change the template. That's where I'm like blanking on where the templates are here. You could change the template, but it's not going to really easily reformat everything, if that makes sense. So I always build from scratch. That's why I don't build out the whole website. I sort of build it in 1 or 2 pages and I look at it, and then I see if I like where it's going. And sometimes I'll download multiple templates here. So again, going back to my whole interface here, before I picked this one, I know I had like 3 others, which have now expired because it's been 14 days, but I had like 3 or 4 other ones that I was just kind of playing with simultaneously. So my advice would be, play with 2 or 3 different templates, start using them and uploading things before you get too deep. Because if I converted this to a different template, the things don't translate. Like they technically translate, like the pages will appear, but one thing to know that, the pages work differently in different templates. So for example, here, and this is just like, my pages are, if I move this to a template that is not 7.2, first of all, that would get messed up. But even if I move this to another one, this categorization might be different, because the pages are, one example here, and this is sort of a very weird thing. Here, I'll just show on this one before your website. So this is a 7.1, but again, here, the pages you can see here are actually categories. So yeah, if I move this to a different one, this whole navigation might get messed up, because the way that these pages are handled is that there's multiple pages within a page section again, and this gets kind of confusing. I think this was 7.1. I didn't like it. So in order to build the site, this is not the separate categories like the 7.1, like you saw in that other one, that all the different colors are all different subsections, and it's like really easy to control. In this particular template, different sections are actually different pages, so it's really confusing. And again, they've changed that, but certain templates still have that as an artifact. So again, just try to avoid moving between any templates and just build what you can and kind of confirm what you like while you're still building before you go too deep, because it will get, I can't easily move this to anything else right now. I'd have to rebuild it from scratch. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, we have 2 questions left. Amelia is wondering, how do you buy or build an email list to send email marketing promotions to?
That's a good question. I would say, again, I just actually listened to a webinar last week from an artist talking about interior designers, and he was saying that there's places that sell these lists that could cost a couple $1,000s. Again, I personally have never bought an email list, so I would say it's much more effective to do your own research and again, connect with people. Again, this is not my expertise. So again, I'm sure there's other answers out there that maybe are maybe more specific, but my experience has been build the customer base that's loyal to you. And just, all my customers come from partnerships with other brands. So if I, do a pop-up at Parachute, they're emailing me to all their, clients. And then hopefully those clients are interested enough to come to the event, and then I could get their emails, right? So it's a much more indirect way, but they're much more loyal customers. If you start getting spammed by random people, even if you buy an emailing list, for the most part, if people don't know you, again, depending what you do, they're typically they're not gonna buy a virtual art workshop from somebody that gets a random email. So even if I tried, emailing all the HR representatives of all these different companies, I personally don't think it would be successful for what I do. So again, I think it's much more important to build relationships and then have that client list be so impressive that people come to you. But saying that, again, maybe there's other ways of thinking about this that I have not. So yeah, I mean, maybe Create and Cultivate has other better resources as well. So yeah, I mean, that's something where I haven't done that. But again, I found that when I started, I did some Facebook ads. I probably spent like $100 on ads. Literally no one cared. But when I talked to an expert about this, she was like, well, first of all, you have to spend a lot more money to get any results that you want, like $1,000 just to get more eyeballs on it. And it's a longer term game where people really have to start seeing what you do, following slowly, and then being willing to. And so she said the best way of getting, emails from people is by giving them a good freebie. So they're interested, they're getting something out of it. So they're going to be invested in you. So, for example, Kendra, the designer who went to RISD, who I showed her work last week, she, on her website, she has like a free learn typeface tutorial where she can, you could, learn about typefaces, but you have to give her your email to subscribe. And so then she adds your email to the newsletter. So things like that. There's ways of kind of engaging with people who already are interested. So again, you're not getting spammed. And so they're not getting spammed, because if they just get random emails, I don't think they're going to really hire you for the most part. But if there's some interest already, then maybe there's a way of kind of growing that interest and then having it become a relationship where people are, they don't want to unsubscribe either, because a lot of times I'll get emails if I don't know the company, I'm just like unsubscribe. So again, you have to kind of build interest to build that connection to then have more loyalty. And that is done, I think, by offering people things that maybe are of value to them that are free, and then that could kind of get engaged with you. So that's a long answer, but hopefully it kind of helps.
Our next question is from Katie Bartell, and I think you might actually, Agnes, have some really good insight to it. Katie makes customized signs, trays out of old barnwood, and she has a website where she knows that people are going to come to the website and want to have customized. Hold on a second. No two products that she makes are the same, and she has several price structures in place for the level of complexity, but she's struggling with how to show these items in a way online that people understand that they can get a one-of-a-kind piece, but that's not confusing. I think I might have just botched that whole question and made it more confusing, but I think essentially what she wants people to know that there's a varying price structure, but that it can be, I guess, customized and depending on how much work, but she just doesn't want that to be confusing on the website. And do you have any insight? And Katie, I apologize if I botched your question.
No, I think it's a good point. I mean, I would say I kind of ran into a similar thing, a little bit differently with my Crave goods, because when I, started doing the Crave goods, each piece is hand dyed. The price isn't necessarily different, but I'm not trying to sell them another caftan that's also similar, but not exactly the same, right? So I think that becomes a separate, it's sort of like a way of selling online that you typically, again, depending on what you're selling, I would say you're even if you can sell online, right? So people can buy my artwork online. Typically, unless they know me, they're not going to just blindly purchase from a company online. So I think there has to be a relationship there. So oftentimes, whether it's my workshops, whether it's my, products, they are using the website sort of as a get to know me. And then they'll, if it's a bigger commission, like if they want multiple things, or if the price is more expensive, they're going to email me and ask me questions. So they're going to reach out and kind of be like, let me know more. So I would say, even if you're selling something and you could sell it directly, give people the opportunity to email you, connect with you, and get more specifics. And so be like, again, being very clear, like this is the pricing starts at this, but you know, depending on what customization you want, it can vary. Like, please connect with us for a custom order. And so that's something where, again, depending on exactly how you're selling and what you're doing, it might be, maybe you don't even give the option of buying online, that they have to connect with you, and then you kind of create, you know, an opportunity to buy, direct click buy. But again, at least I would have that be really clear up front, that, you know, it starts at this price, but depending on what features you want or what things you want, you know, each piece is one of a kind and it is customized. And so when we do our workshops, I originally had some prices on there for corporate events, but everybody told me, like, no, you should take all your prices down and just have everybody connect with you and email you and then ask for prices. But that way you kind of, like, you know, I'll do it through Square. Like, I still do it through, you know, like you know, they still make their final invoice, everything. It's a little bit more work, but again, it's helped me for those larger commissions. So if someone's spending $4,000 on a workshop, they're not going to buy it through Squarespace typically, because they have questions, they want details, they want to work with me on, you know, making it perfect for them. But if they're buying like a $50 workshop, because they're coming to my studio, then yes, they're just individuals. So again, I do think that the price, the more expensive it is, the more you're going to have to help them anyway with that purchase. Because and then if they don't know you at all, then you're going to really have to help them with the purchase. So yeah, I would say just make it really clear how they connect with you, and that prices start at something, and then hopefully you'll get that dialogue, and then you could kind of finesse the price to end up being what they want and what they need. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So that was our last question. I just want to give everybody an opportunity, another minute or so, if you want to ask a question of Agnes. In the meantime, I'd just like to remind everybody that a recording of this webinar will be available on the RISD Alumni website within the next, I like to say, 10 business days. That gives us enough time to turn around and get it on there. And I'd just like to thank everybody, especially you, Agnes, for taking your time and doing this today. And I actually just wanted to let you know that I think that Peter Heller thinks that you have a beautiful font on your art website. So I just wanted to share that, considering. But no more questions. Wait, no questions have come in, just a bunch of thank you. So thank you again, Agnes. Thank you to everybody who participated. And I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good day.